It being going on 9 o'clock, we call the meeting to order. First of all, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation. Okay, approval of the agenda. One thing I'd like to comment on, we have a discussion item on the auditor treasurer position. I'd like to comment and maybe move that up to action item, should we decide to.
What's the action gonna be?
That we start the hiring process so that we can overlap a little bit.
We don't need an action to do that.
Okay. I was just concerned that we start shadowing the current auditor treasurer. So if we don't need an action item, then that'll can stay as discussion. That all right, Tim? Everybody? Okay, that's the cue. Anything else for the agenda? Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve it.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Board meeting minutes of May 23rd, 2023. Any corrections or adjustments? I'll entertain a motion.
Good.
There a second? I'll second it. Other discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Public comment. Anybody wish to have public comment? If we do so, I'd like you to come forward so we can record it. Any public comment? Anybody on the screen? Appears to be not. Okay, moving on. There are no appointments. Next is consent agenda. We have 7 items on the consent agenda.
So Heidi Lapham's going from full-time to part-time, correct? Then they want to hire this Elena Bagniski from a part-time to full-time. Is that correct?
Babinski,
That's the way I read it.
that's
Adjustment there.
going down from full time to half time is by choice.
Yes, the auditor's office has made the request that these 2 positions, which are both one is half-time deputy auditor treasurer, the other is full-time deputy auditor treasurer. If they flip their full-time and half-time status between them, this is something that the employees have are by choice are requesting. And both and Eliana Babinski has met, I understand, has met all the criteria to do the work in the license center, but will still retain her duties on the other side to assist with matters dealing with deeds.
Thank you. Thank you. We're hiring new deputy.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
There a second?
I'll second.
I have a discussion with you. I want to thank Cynthia for the 24 years with being with the county of Houston. It's a pretty good length of time, longevity. Any other discussion then? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Action items. First action item is consider appointing Melissa Burrow to Extension Committee. Term will expire December 21st, 2025.
There was a vacancy on the extension committee, so we finally got somebody to apply for it, and Melissa would be good on there, so. I make a motion to approve Melissa Burrow for extension.
I can say, who seconded?
I did.
Further discussion? Or does that fill the committee then?
It's filled now, yep.
So, okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 2 is consider recognizing Juneteenth as an observed Houston County holiday in compliance with the state of Minnesota amending statute 10.55 and Minnesota statute 45.44. In the event that the Juneteenth falls on a Sunday, the following Monday be observed as a county paid holiday. In the event it falls on Saturday, the preceding Friday will be observed as a county paid holiday. This is something that came down in recent legislation.
Yes, and this action item number 2 actually impacts the non-represented employees. Action item number 3 are the MOAs that we need to do for all of the represented employees. So we respectfully request that that you consider approving this for the non-represented employees as well. Those are your administrative directors, as well as the nurses and your IT staff members.
In the event if they're working and they get time and a half, is that kind of how the deal is with this group here?
Well, except for your exempt employees.
Okay, thank
Why not?
Exempt employees don't get time and a half.
So,
They're salaried.
so why does it have to be a paid holiday? Can't it just be a holiday? Do we have to be paying? I mean, you're looking at $30,000 for one day.
For exempt employees,
Do we have to have it being paid holiday or can it be just a holiday?
well, if your salaried employees are going to be paid their annual salary, whether you declare it paid or not, unless if you determine not to, for salaried employees, to pay them for the day, then you put at risk their exempt status under the Fair Labor Standard Act. The other issue is that for the labor units, I would consider putting your non-represented employees at par with your represented employees.
So there's no opt out on this?
Not that I am aware of, and this is the action that all the other counties that I'm familiar with in our region, as well as municipalities have been, such as the city of Olmsted, and have been taking.
This is one of the state mandated things, I guess, or state
Oh, governor
legislated.
declared.
Bob, you had a,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, League of Minnesota Cities actually came out with a ruling on it already too.
Mhm.
and Robert,
And June 19th has been a recognized holiday for a long time. As far as just being a holiday, but not mandatory as far as a paid holiday. It's been around for a long time as far as June 19th. The state of Minnesota now made it a formal holiday, so there's an extra holiday. Added to everybody's days off during the year. But it's a mandate, not a paid mandate, it's just mandated. But from that perspective, the 26,500 that it costs to pay all the salary or all the hourly people that we have already is in the budget. It isn't costing us an additional 26,500
Mhm.
because it was in the budget as if they were it was anticipated they're going to be paid for that day. Now they're not going to be paid, but it's still part of the budget. So it isn't costing us an extra 26,500. Sheriff's Department is where it'll cost us extra money, or the Highway Department if they have an emergency and have to go out and work on that day.
What the 26
Anyway, it's the overtime.
26.5 represents potential lost productivity. you're correct, the amount is in the budget, but that is the. And I'm not in a position to give you a legal opinion as to what would occur if you didn't do that, this. However, I did read the Fair Labor Standard Act as far as, and the opinions in there as far as the risk if you don't pay it as a paid day for your exempt people, putting that potentially at status that they would be treated in the future as hourly rate people, which could potentially cost you more in that status.
Other questions?
I don't think we got much of a choice,
Mhm.
and they come down. Make a motion to approve recognizing Juneteenth on Houston County Hall, plans for the state of Minnesota.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 3 is consider approving memorandum of agreements with each of the following unions. Law enforcement, labor services 415, let's call it, licensed lieutenant unit. Law enforcement labor services number 237, the licensed deputies unit. Law enforcement labor services number 60, jailer dispatch unit. Minnesota Association of Professional Employees Supervisors Unit. International Union of Operating Engineers, local number 49ers. American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Council number 65, local 2166. All those are the unions, so it's in the records.
All of the unions have met with their members and have signed off on these proposed memorandums of agreement. So the matter is now before the board.
I'd have expected anybody to say no.
But just as a matter of process, I wanted to let you know that it's gone to their business agents and their local representatives and their members.
Okay.
No, I would have been surprised if they said no.
Good point. Further discussion? Entertain a motion?
I made the motion on number 2, so I'll do it for this one too, as far as approving the memorandum of agreement with all the labor.
Is there a second?
I'll second that one as well.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Here, number 4, Mr. Herrick, Marty. We have Houston County application approved. Consider approving Houston County hauler license for Northwood Refuge LLC for the 2023. New business to the county that I'm not aware of, or?
How this one evolved was basically somebody out of county brought in a roll-off and it was reported to us. And so we corresponded and we said, you need a permit. And so then he filled out the paperwork. That's how it transpired
Where Northwood Refuge?
on Alaska.
They're the ones that dropped it.
They also kind of put it near somebody else who works for one of the haulers. So it's kind of.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, all the paperwork appears to be in order and they have
Yes.
the things needed, insurance wise and all that good stuff.
I'll make a motion to approve the hauling license.
There's a second.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Number 5, consider approving an IUP for Brad Olinger I think so, but no, you're for temporary farm dwelling on Crooked Creek Town, or in Crooked Creek Township.
This is a interim use permit for a temporary farm dwelling for another farm employee. And so what they're proposing to do is bring in a Amish cabin that will have all the utilities and the person works on the farm is what it comes down to. And they're putting it in a location that isn't really, it's not taking up prime ag land. It's right now it's a gravel drive. What is the area.
And it's not a cabin, it's a dwelling.
It's pretty, right, it's,
Because if it's a cabin, you has to do a different permit.
yeah, and it's improved. It's the Amish are building it, but it's a dwelling.
It's on skids.
It's on skids, but it's got sewer and water.
It will hook onto the existing sewer and water from the other house.
Interesting to be portable, but. still
Yeah, but it's
hooked up.
big.
They're not-
big.
They're pretty good sized, yeah.
Just to put that, so, well, I was thinking the cost of it was $70,000, so that's a lot of money to put on skid. Me, but I guess I'm not the one doing it
So how long is an interim use permit good for?
until that guy be
Right,
in the building. It's gotta be done.
So that's, see, for this interim use permit for a second dwelling, it has to be portable, whether it's a trailer house or. Something like this, it's on skids that they
Right.
can. Pull away.
and it's very much predicated on, it's still related to farming activity.
Right.
That's the whole premise of this, is that
It's not a family member, it's just a hired,
it's a hired employee, that meets one of the subset designations of what's allowed.
but the interim use does not have a timeframe.
No, it would basically be if the owner were to sell, or if there's no longer somebody engaged in that extra activity.
You know what the dimensions on this building are?
I think it's 18 by 50.
Right.
It's pretty good size.
So is it two halves that they can haul it away?
I don't know.
That's what they applied.
I'm sure it's one.
That's a trailer.
I know they can move all of it, but it's
It's probably almost a crane.
just to get it on.
Roll off.
Seen the one the other day being transferred with wheels underneath. I suppose they can just lift the building up, slide the wheel down.
Just like fix the basement, jack it up.
There could be a porch too that might be adding to the dimension that maybe increasing some.
But I went down and looked at it. It's in a good spot. Not taking up the requirement. Like Martin said, if the hired man die, move off, then if he doesn't have a family member to come in there or anybody else, it's building.
But family member comes in, that changes it, or does it
Mhm.
stay IUP?
If the family member is gonna work on the farm, then they can continue on. If the family member is just moving in, no, that they don't get it. I mean, it's solely focused on the farm related activity.
Farm employment.
Yes, and for that farm too.
Okay.
Not just a farm.
April.
Greg, you had said you went down and looked at it, so the building is being constructed,
No, it's not there yet.
it's not there.
They get
Portable, it's already being, it's made at the.
wherever they're making it, then they.
Okay, so they're building it on an Amish
Yeah.
construction site, and then they haul it in.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. They can haul it in.
Kind of like the building we put down the county. That was built on an office site.
Okay,
I make a motion, we approve the. IUP for Brad Owen.
is there a second?
So move.
Greg? Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried.
Just curiosity though, before you leave. So when this IUP, is that recorded at the recorder's office? In order to keep track of it, future reference?
I'm not
Sure.
sure.
IUPs are,
I don't think it
they're
is,
not in the abstract, CUPs are. But
right, because it's not
IUPs.
deemed permanent.
It's an interim use permit, not a conditional use.
So your office has a record of that, keeps track of it.
So only CUPs that goes with the land.
Right, I understand that, but the IUP has got to be kept track of.
Well, I'm sure it's in.
It's compliance tracking, right?
So
We have a dedicated list of IUPs, yes.
they got to pay tax on that building?
Well, I'm sure
Only be some type.
I would,
Gotta be some kind of tax, ain't there?
it'll be another building, so I'm sure it'll be assessed and.
Okay.
Thank
you. Moving on, number 6, consider a CUP for John Carroll Dearson to expand fleet lot to 461.5 animal units and build a manure storage structure with a capacity of, it's not $20,000, it's just 20,000 gallons.
well, it's way more than
$20
20,
an hour.
it's greater than 20,000 gallons. It's probably 2.48 gallons.
It's what?
I think it's 2.48 million gallons.
So where did the 20,000 come into? Is that, I'm sure he's not getting a bill for 20 grand.
Oh, I think it's that the regulation kicks in at 20,000 gallons. Or at least at that current level.
Those expansion of existing farming operation.
Yes.
Right now, they haul manure pretty much every day and they kind of like to get away from that during the winter time and stuff and. I guess the funding is there now to build this and,
Stormwater's working with them.
I mean, everything's set up right, ready to roll. I think it's a good deal, keeps him off the highways during the winter time. Maybe they can haul most of it in the fall and they should, you know. I think it's gonna be an improvement. And I guess that's it.
Okay,
Like it's expanding to the 461. Yeah. What's he at now?
Basically, right now, what we're hearing is 295 dairy cows, 95 dairy heifers, 40 calves. So he's probably not expanding a lot, but he's jumping over that 300 animal unit.
Yeah, he's under 300 now. He's gonna go over that. So that's the trigger.
Exactly.
For a different, you have to follow more regulation.
So he's basically staying the same size. Or is
No.
No, he's getting a little,
He's getting a little bit, he's adding a few more animals.
he's probably 10%.
So basically, it's a little bit of an improvement, increase.
Yeah.
It's not, here's what I got, plus 461.
No,
No,
that's in total.
I'm just asking a question. Well, you
Yeah.
gave me approval for 461 and I already got
Ah,
300.
Yeah, no,
That's not the case.
it's the total number.
Total of 461 and a half.
Correct. Yes.
And the scale is what, 300, 750, 1,000? Is that how the feedlot scale is going?
There's 300 and then it's a pretty big number after that. I'd have to look.
Varies under 750, I think.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of the Fillmore County one and yeah,
I think Myers, they're funding for the 1,000 cow per day, right?
there's one that's getting, I think there's, yeah, there is it, and there's one at 1,400.
They want to go to 24. They want to build a huge 21 million gallon.
has that come, that hasn't come forward yet?
No.
It's got to go.
Well,
through
we
the
can't
state.
be talking
well,
about
what
it.
we're,
Oh, wow.
on this issue here is the CUP, so.
Correct.
2.48 million gallons. It's not really karst country up by him, but he's working with soil and water. as far as
Yes.
Design and whatnot.
And it's a,
Overflow.
yeah, it's a aligned impoundment system. That, you know, the money is finally there to do it. And the design is in-house. I don't know as Amelia's deemed it complete yet. For the, you know, for the actual structure, but it's getting pretty close. And it's a combination of cement and membrane line system with water stops. And, you know, meets current standards. And also importantly, they've definitely done some work on the sub base, you know, so they're not just, you know, they're addressing the issue of differential settlement and the forces that will go along with that.
Last curiosity question, where is it located in comparison to County Highway 3?
We stood so.
We've got the map here.
It's on the other side.
Yeah, you won't be able to see it.
On the backside of the, well, if you, when you're coming down, you'll see a big barn there and it's.
I know where the farm is, but I was just curious if it was in that low spot, within the house and
No.
the highway or on the other side. So,
Yes.
thank you.
It appears Pete and PCA is involved in taking care of it too and going through all of
Yeah,
the permits here. It looks like it's pretty much in order.
he's gotta keep track of where he puts all his manure.
Yeah, there's definitely a,
Yeah, he's got a manure management plan,
Exactly.
everything over 300 units, you gotta,
and they defined the areas of disposal and what the soil conditions are and what the slopes are and the timing and saturated conditions and those type of application considerations, definitely.
Sounds like got it all in
and
order.
hopefully Mother Nature cooperates.
That would be good.
I'll make a motion to approve the CUP for John Field.
I'll second it. Discussion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Takes care of all the action items, discussion item. Discuss the auditor treasurer position resignation, yes. This information, what we can do next.
I was asked to put this on as a discussion item to how the board wished to proceed or when the board wishes to proceed with appointing during the interim.
We don't need to have a special election. We can just appoint for the term.
And I don't know if you could have a special election, consider the timing, but you don't need to.
Well, I was told that we couldn't have a special.
I'm sure, I am not here to discuss what the,
Well, that's what you
Those
debate
options
at the personnel committee, that there's, we have to appoint to finish out the term.
that's what I understand is that you have to appoint. I don't know the rules on the special elections. But there's a statute that says the board has to appoint an interim for the balance of an elected term. I understand if there are some other statutes out there that may pertain to special elections, but there's some timing that you'd have to ask Sam about, but I don't think it applies to this situation.
With regard to this, then. What it says here on this is whether regarding the resignation and posting. So we have to post for the interim. Advertise for it.
I'm recommending you do. You don't have to, but you should interview probably the potential candidates that you would like to that may be seeking to fill this interim balance of the term. I have been informed that there's potentially internal and external candidates that are interested,
So
that have expressed an interest.
if we appoint internal candidate, we still have to advertise? The post?
No, how you appoint is up to you. I do think that you may wish to advertise a reduced time, maybe 2 weeks, to determine the qualifications of those that would be interested in performing these duties.
So then what would happen after that? Post.
I would summarize their qualifications or their materials, if they summarize them in a letter of interest, and arrange for them to meet with the full board.
Then we would do
And the board would interview ask questions.
and then we do scoring too.
That would be the preferred method, is to do scoring. However, it could, each commissioner does have a, I would say you score based upon your first choice and your second choice or your third choice. I would rank them, and then because each commissioner has an equal vote, and then you'd see how that vote went.
Time, go Robert.
It's definitely something that we have to move on pretty quick because
Was my discussion earlier, that I'd like to start the process of getting somebody to shadow the existing auditor treasurer, so that if it is somebody who's not familiar totally with any office, that they have a better understanding. It's some, but you know, we need to have this in place for next year's election. It's a big deal coming up, and
Well,
yeah, it's an interim to finish out the term. The term is till 2026.
right. So next year's election, you mean for elections to handle the
To
election?
handle elections, yes. I mean, no, we're not lazy, but I should have, excuse me, I didn't say that word handling. It's a big deal coming up, that whoever is in that position needs to have the experience.
So are we gonna call it auditor treasurer position, or are we gonna split the auditor treasurer?
We're not splitting at this time, because we
All the same
stay the same as far as what Sam is
for
saying.
this period?
The election was for an auditor treasurer position, and that needs to stand this way he described it to me.
We can't.
See,
split
that's
it until
new,
election.
new information from that I haven't heard that.
Well, when I saw it on the agenda, I thought I'd like to find out what's the scoops are. It's, so,
Is that how you interpret it? Yes.
I referred the matter to the county attorney's office for his review. The question that I don't know, that I have is whether the way the statute reads, plain language of the statute does not provide for splitting it up at this time. Doesn't mean you can't do that in the future, but you have an obligation. It's the way I understand it, and I sent it over to Sam for his reading, is that you have to fill the current elected office, and the current elected office, because it says shall appoint, the current elected office is the auditor treasurer.
So if we wanted to restructure it, we couldn't even do that at this time.
It's my understanding, like I said, I sent it over to the county attorney's office for his reading. It's my understanding is that that would cannot be done at this time,
So is.
but it doesn't mean that you can't do it in preparation for a later,
so
to
is
be
Sam
effective at a
emailed
later
that to
date.
us? Again, I don't see it here.
I don't know. The statute, let me see if I. You know, the statute refers to the vacated elected office.
I understand.
Some questions here that we can't get answered because Sam ain't here, so.
Well, so but we gotta figure out if we're gonna post this or we're going to appoint within. So we appoint within, we shouldn't have to post. Or am I wrong?
Well, maybe even an internal posting at minimum, then you'd have to be looking at what kind of backfill, if you will, you would do for that internal posting, if any.
Well, maybe we should do an internal posting first and see what we come up with and then go from there.
with that,
I don't know what advantage that would provide you. In fact, the disadvantage it would provide you is that you do not know at that point what qualified options are available to you.
Well, no, but that'd be some way to, we always try to promote within and someone that's already been working in the office that knows the stuff.
Actually,
I mean, we always, for other positions, we always post internal first and then
No, we don't. We post simultaneously.
for 2 weeks.
Pardon? For 2 weeks. Well, I'm just saying the 2 weeks would be an expedited process because
No,
we
but I
are
mean-
running up against.
I thought we
The
always
second-
posted internal for 2 weeks and then we posted
No,
external.
not necessarily. No. We post same time. Very similarly.
I would look,
49ers, I believe we may have a posting we go ahead, but the rest we haven't.
So it can be done.
Yes, it can be.
But I would suggest that we post both internal and external for the reasons is if we post internal only and then find that we need to go to external, now we got to delay a couple of weeks. We can do both. And then wean them out as we look at the applications, we might get somebody that's very qualified that may not be here. I agree that we should be looking internally, but the thing is that we need a qualified person to be ready to go. The advantage that an internal has is that they've seen it already. I know that. But there's times when in my experience, we had an external colonel come in with some good ideas, so but I agree that internal is good. But I think we also need to be prepared because we're on a timeline now. We're less than 2 months.
And keep in mind the posting in, whether that's internal or external, this is a non-represented appointment by the board. This is not a union position that's being appointed.
I agree with what Dewey said. In the past, probably 18 years ago, they had a similar situation when Sheriff Lee resigned midterm, and they looked outside too and actually appointed an outside interim sheriff. Gerald Peterson.
It doesn't obligate you to an external appointment. It just lets you know what the field of interest is.
Exactly.
And it doesn't prohibit you from making that internal appointment. Again, it just opens the field.
Broadens the field for more ideas. So we need to do something pretty quick here because, like I say, we're looking at 7 weeks out that Donna won't be here to give us her good advice.
If we go internal, on the assumption that the internal person is fully capable, we have to hire somebody to fill the position that the internal person had. But with an internal person, things go on as they are. Externally, we might get some new ideas and whatnot, but the transitional phase in there where the outside person is going to have to get into the flow of the office. So internally, we wouldn't have any big issue as far as the transition.
Correct.
We got somebody that knows what they're doing. That transition would be the new hire.
Yep.
Somebody external might bring new ideas like you're talking about, but there will be the pain of getting acclimated to what we do. Before you can make changes of what we're doing, you got to know what we're doing. So there would be a time crunch on that. Personally, I think we've got some internal candidates that would do just fine.
I agree.
But if the board wants to.
But the
go
process,
outside,
but the process is what we got. Got to figure out the process.
And they may be the most qualified candidate.
Yeah, it's
I think your process would be the same either way. And we can make the time frame the same either way.
Process of doing interviews, scoring, ranking.
Or ranking, yeah.
That's what
Getting your questions,
concerns me a little bit, given our last department head.
from a process point of view, do we have to? Or can we just appoint?
That was one of my.
No, but I mean, I don't see why we have to.
I mean, we got a qualified person sitting right in this courthouse and he or she wants a job. I don't know why they give it.
Well, I guess it's sounding like we want to post internally first only, or you want to go full post? Like, we're at a point of posting. No, we just don't wanna go and say, oh, so and so, you take over now. Would might be somebody in another department. That has similar experience that might wanna slide over. So, but we need the most qualified, is my bottom line. I don't care if I go with numbers, scoring, ranking, or whatever you want to do with the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
Fires don't figure.
Well, can we do like an internal for a week and then go to the
So I
outside?
think you need to give somebody an opportunity to put their materials together. And then you should have an equitable process to review that. By yourself, by the board. And, they should be, interviewed by the board.
Can we, now that I start thinking.
I mean, if you're looking at an equal opportunity process.
Would it be too much of a rush? To have a schedule saying at our work group, do the interview?
I don't
That's 2
think-
weeks away.
I don't think you can do that.
What, is there a timeline that we are required to look at for a certain language?
No,
There is not.
no, I'm just looking at trying to put an equitable process together.
Well, I'm just throwing out some information, I mean. This way here, we're busy next Tuesday. And that's too soon, and I'm just looking at posting. And possibly working on having the interview process during our work group. Maybe do it the following week. How long do we want to have the posting open? And then when do we want to get our ducks in a row?
Here's the thing, this is discussion, we can't take any action today. anyway.
Correct.
So
But we can give direction.
we can give direction, but we can't take any action. In that regard.
But I was just looking at, as I was suggested earlier, moving it up to possible action, but. I guess the action would only be to direct human resources to post. No, we don't need an action
You don't need
item.
an action to do that. You could have. Or you could not have, you could either have or have not have personnel committee to help. Direct this too, but it seems like we don't want to do that.
Qualified people to apply.
Work directly with the whole board.
Such-
I don't think the personnel committee has been. Normally provides direction that way. I think the direction historically has come from the board.
Well, we could have the personnel committee look at all the applicants and let's give us a top 3.
Well, no, that's not, you can't do that either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing.
I thought we were talking about directing to post.
Yeah.
You just, some kind of, if I get the sense that everybody wants this posted internally, then I will go ahead and get it posted.
Yes,
That's what I thought we were talking about.
we're on the posting.
I think we should do internal and then open it up after that. Do both. But look at the internal person first. Might find the right one, we might not, we might.
What would be wrong with posting it internally for 2 weeks and then see what we get, and then after that, we can open it up. If we don't, there isn't no.
It's just a delay.
Yeah,
It's a big
Yeah,
delay.
but we're gonna be. We can't do it next week. We can't have no action next week. We can't do it during a workshop. We can't do interviews during a workshop. It has to be during a regular meeting.
For interviews,
Yes.
we've done some interviews outside of public hearings.
I think so long as you don't,
We have we done
Have just-
interviews during workshop?
I don't recall that.
I
But,
don't think we have.
as long as you're not, well, you wouldn't have.
Because workshop.
You couldn't
don't
take
do
action, you
actions.
couldn't take any action. But you could I would think you could interview and then reflect individually and come back then to have your discussion with the following meeting.
So we can't reflect, we can only reflect individually, we can't have a discussion as a board.
I don't know how that all works for the closed sessions for. Suppose you could, as long as you're not taking action.
If we're worried that we're not gonna get what we want internally, then we should be posting internally and externally. From a timing point of view. We post for 2 weeks and we don't find anything, and we wanna post again, now you got another 2 or 3 weeks. Now we're to when the resignation takes hold.
And the thing too on that would be that if we have to go to that second level as possible, we'll go that route. And then out, the outside person has to come in and get a rush. That delays things.
Well, actually, we don't have to post for 2 weeks, we could post this for a week.
You just need to give them some time to get their materials. Well, you need some time for the word to get out and then to get their materials back to you. And then you could look at who you could look at your field of candidates. It's not that you automatically interview the entire field of candidates. It depends upon what you see in their qualifications.
So
As
who
to
gets to
what,
determine who the candidates we interview and who we don't?
First. That's why I was commenting earlier.
Personnel, the
Which-
HR person or?
I mean, somebody will have to weed them out, you know. I put my application in, I'm certainly not qualified. Sure, they'll weed me out, I hope. You know? I mean, let's get somebody who's qualified and knows what they're doing. Internal or external, somebody that has that type of experience. Qualifications, you know, knowledge or whatever. But,
your personnel committee could do the ranking of the rating, excuse me, of the candidates. We'd have a criteria related to performing the duties in the office and based on their experience. That's relatable experience. You'd
Possible
determine.
within 2 weeks, we could get some people in, get some applications, the personnel committee could look at it. Make a recommendation for our following work.
Make a recommendation for your interviews.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is to post it and generate interest.
I mean, that,
give us the top 5 or top 3 or something.
it's up to you guys, whatever you want to do.
And then the personnel committee would go through the applications and
Pick out the top 3 or 4 and bring them to the board. And work.
I hesitate to use a number because
Who knows?
if they were all equal, then you might have to look at whoever they all are, but if they aren't,
Could be
but
one, could be
typically you
4.
usually have some experience that you can discern from this.
So from my perspective, we should do a general posting for 2 weeks. And then personnel can review the applicants, present 3, top 5, whatever personnel committee thinks is appropriate.
Okay,
That's my opinion. I'm
Uh-huh.
1 of 5.
So
Internally,
you're doing internal only or in?
Across the
whole thing?
board,
Across the
external,
board.
internal, the whole.
Okay,
I agree with that. Internal, external for 2 weeks.
because that way there, we're not delaying, should there not be somebody within.
Correct.
That's the bottom line, what I'll get.
Then they can get into the personnel committee in maybe 2-3 days and before the workshop, and we can bring the top qualified ones to you guys. Sort through and make your opinion, then we can take action.
and this should be clear, this is just to appoint to fill out the remainder of the term.
Correct. Interim appointment. The guarantee of what happens in the after, 26 is the end of the term. by
2026.
And then we can change it back then if we want to, from the point of view of that.
Elected now, we have to decide if we want to change it to appointed.
We got time,
We got time.
There's a time frame for that.
we got time to work on that.
It's
Okay,
not an issue, right?
is that the directive then? Is that posting in general, internal and external
For 2 weeks.
for 2 weeks? And then bring it back to
Personnel committee.
personnel for discussion. Give us the top 3 or 5, or who knows, we might have 100 people, might have only 3, well, then we got 3. You know, but
We won't know.
we're not prepared, so we know what.
So if we post for 2 weeks. You wouldn't be interviewing at your workshop, you'd be interviewing because the. Personnel committee would need to be then looking at the applications. And then interviews would be set for a subsequent board meeting.
Yes, we'll have to, because 2 weeks from today is.
It's your work session.
So,
It's 7.
Either the last Tuesday of this month, first Tuesday of next. Have a board meeting to discuss it, depends on how it's with the person. One of those two.
could set up a time after our regular board meeting or whatever, go from there. Okay, so that's the directive to test them.
I understand it. Thank you. I'll
Thank
work
you.
with the committee.
Good discussion. Board updates. We'll start. Greg, what do you got going on?
A week ago, me and Bob met with airport people, and I think we got that deal pretty much resolved. I got a meeting today at noon at the Bear Creek Watershed down at the Big Canoe Church, if you know where that is. And while we went through the zoning. Outside of that, I don't have much going on.
Okay.
Just a few phone calls about the high-powered rifle deal, and that's cleared up today.
Okay, so clear that up for me.
We had a bunch of, I had 5 people call against having high-powered during your. 2 people called and said that they want high-powered. And I can't argue with the high-powered rifles. They got muzzle loaders now that probably shoot, what, 300 to 500 yards, so. That's almost a high-powered rifle.
But what is the regulation?
With anybody, I was told that anything below I-90 would be open to high-powered rifles during deer season.
When I-
990.
So that currently there's a borderline
There's a zone.
zones, different zones,
Yeah.
different parts of the state that allow different things, and so on. What I found out from Sam in discussing this, because it was brought up last Tuesday, the game warden informed him that it died in session, died in committee, that did not get passed yet. There is discussion at this time.
The high-powered rifles are not allowed in southern Minnesota.
At this time.
Still shotguns and muzzle loaders. If it died in session and the session's over, it's done.
Well, this is,
For now,
No,
you know,
so it's
that's what I asked, what Sam said to me this morning,
it's a moot point.
shouldn't have to worry about it
at this time.
at this time.
Things come pop up and garbage laws.
Did we hear anything on that second amendment? Did we get anything going on that? Nothing yet?
Not that I know.
I mean, county, from a countywide perspective. We haven't done anything.
Well, we had a discussion about
We
it. You
discussed-
guys decided you guys didn't want to do that. In a general consensus, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the way I remember it. Consensus.
That's
Okay.
all I got.
That's good. Bob,
Pretty quiet week, so and just a couple of people questioning how things were going with the Pine Creek possible subdivision, and nothing has come through Martin or anybody, so they must still be working on obstacles. I'm assuming.
okay. Robert,
Okay. last week. I had, some meetings, but nothing of interest, but yesterday we won, several of us went to the AMC. This quarterly. meeting?
District 9.
District 9, is that a quarterly meeting? Yes,
You can,
spring meeting.
Spring.
District 9 spring meeting. And that was in Austin. There was 3 of us there. My recollection of it is that there was a lot of discussion about the different counties and how they handle working from home and
Or offsite.
or offsite.
Yeah.
And most of them have policies with regard to working from home. Some of them that I talked to allow the working from home because it reduces the demand on their office space. If the people are working at home and they've got it scheduled that way. In some cases, some of their people are actually more efficient working from home because they leave from home and go straight to work. Be it assessing or whatever. And only have to come into the office once or twice a week. Some people don't call it working from home, it's just outside the office
Work offsite.
and work off site, so they can be any place. The trouble with it is, and I talked to Tess about this, is if they're working off site. You're dealing with different states when you're down here. They're in Iowa, they're in Wisconsin, they're in Minnesota. So there's different rules across the board. And one of the other issues was security. The security of the information that they have with them at home, and the protection of that information. Which could get a little bit more dicey as far as the protection of the information if you don't have.
sure that's what keeps Andy up.
Anyways, that was one of them, and then a long conversation presented by AMC about all the different things that. And a very general conversation because. I didn't realize this, there was 6,200 bills presented. Not all of them get worked on. And then. Which one was it that was the night before they got 900 pages of information that was going to be voted on the next day?
That's human service.
Human service. Well, that's ridiculous. I know they've got people that do research. I know they've got people that help, are independent versus party affiliated to do the research on it, but to have 900 pages the day before and say, this is what we're gonna vote on. I didn't know it doesn't make sense. Then last night I had a meeting over in Winona for Hiawatha Valley Mental Health. And that was an interesting meeting. They had some promotions. The big issue there is maintaining staff and keeping their psychologists, keeping their clinical people at Winona, at Hiawatha Valley Mental Health versus leaving for other sites. They do have a housing program over there with quite a few people that they maintain and housing facilities. And they have like 95% occupancy. So from a housing point of view, they're pretty close to full. And housing demand is pretty high. So that's an issue. One item of discussion that Eric, you send me the MACA newsletter all the time. And I appreciate that. But when you read that, virtually every county in the state of Minnesota seems to be going through administrative. Bang, to bang, to bang. And when you look at all the different things that are available from the state of Minnesota, be it broadband, be it human services, be it law enforcement, there's all kinds of money out there, but you got to make applications for it. You got to be going after it. Highway department, same way. Most of the administrators, like Bobby over in Preston, takes care of most of that. It gets lined up. Fillmore County's been very aggressive and getting a lot of grants and whatnot for Fillmore County. I don't know if we apply for a whole lot of them. I mean, you're busy and everything like that, whether we need an administrator or a coordinator that can handle some of these things. It's budget time, so it's something I think we should discuss. For future reference.
What if we were to? You know, for all these grant applications and this new legislations that you were talking about.
Yeah,
And we hired a. You know, right now we contract our EDA. Position with SUSEDA. What if we were to create a position that's EDA / coordinator? That way they could get all the grant stuff worked out. And whether when it comes to the business grants or the help with the department grants, whether it's human services or highway or anything like, you know, all the other departments. I mean, we pay CETA pretty good money now to do that work. It would be a way to condense it. Be cost effective.
unless we could contract more.
That's a possibility too.
It's, all I wanted to do is bring it up as far as the subject because we're losing stuff.
Well, yeah, I agree. We were losing out on a lot of money. I mean, get the right.
Well, we're not losing. There's money. No, we're not. This is new money we're talking about.
We're not gaming.
That we haven't, nobody's applied for yet. It's just got passed here, so. I mean, I would assume John is doing the work of following what's gonna be available out there, and he's. Hopefully looking at what we can get for grants. I mean, they come up here forward with grants all the time. And so does Brian. He comes up forward with grants. Sheriff Sweatberg comes up here with grants, applications too, so. I mean, the department heads are in charge of watching out for that stuff.
But the administrator would do more than just grant writing, to take care of the issues on a day-to-day operation of it. Where the department heads would have a person to go to, that's where I commented earlier this year about administrator to take care of being that person, the liaisons between employees and us, you know, to make sure that everything is followed correctly, and grant writing is part of administering, but there's other issues too, and as we look at things going on, and changes of maybe staffing over the next few years, I think we need to look at the administrator position.
Well, there is grant writers out there you can hire on the percentage. We at Camp Winnebago entertained that for a little while. We for like a $20,000 grant, he got 1,500. There's people or places out there that do that, but I don't know nothing about it.
But somebody needs to direct them, that would be the administrator. So anyway, that's an issue for down the road.
Or according.
But if
We
you look,
would not necessarily need an administrator. We could. You know, there's a lot of counties that just have coordinators too.
very few, if you look at the whole state, we're one of only a couple that don't have somebody in that position, be coordinator, administrator, whatever you want to call it. So, but that's a issue for another discussion.
Just something I wanted to bring up.
Because grants are gonna be a big thing now that they wasted all the money.
Well, we ain't gonna get no more of these ARPA monies coming or nothing like that, but I think 24 is gonna be a tough year. We get a lot of cuts.
It's gonna be tough is when the 17 billion that gets spent throughout everything. Granted, the rainy day fund is full, but everything is spent and a lot of it's one-time money.
Yeah,
And
Surplus is gone.
the surplus is gone.
we ain't getting $1,000.
And what happens in a couple of years? What happens the next biennium?
Yeah.
All these things that they're putting in place now, people get used to it, people expect it. And they're gonna cut it. Now what do we do? I worry about that.
Good concerns there.
Anyways, that was just my thought.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Eric?
Last Thursday night, I was at our extension meeting. Rebecca from 4-H gave her report, enrollment for animals for this year for the fair has increased by 129 animals overall. A lot more goats.
Goats in the end thing
And
now.
beef expanded quite a bit too, so.
Okay, good.
Getting prepared for all that, and there's a new club started in the Crescent. The apple blossoms have come back. So they've created that club there. They also have a La Crescent Tiger Lilies too. It's more of in city park, but
So there is a city 4-H club.
yeah. Then she gave a report on her Bluff Country Collaborative Navigators Southeast Tech Winona Career Exploration Day. They added the Southeast Tech there. That was a good deal.
Was that well attended?
Yep, yeah, they had about 115 youth went to that. And Katie Extension, she's really a busy person. Katie at Extension has been really busy. She had both March and April reports here, and recently done the Farm Safety Day. We had 517 students, 212 from Houston County. Attended that because that was on.
Is that a tri-county deal?
It's Fillmore and Houston counties.
Used to be
Houston's
more
was-
of them, wasn't it?
Hmm?
There used to be more counties involved. Just now it's Houston and Fillmore now.
It's always, as far as I've been involved, it's always been just Houston and Fillmore. But then she also invited this year homeschool students.
Okay.
And parochial schools too. So there were some of those that came. It's good.
Do you have enough food? Well,
Yes, that was the best hit of the day is the cattlemen's putting on the food, Greg, so you get kudos for that.
Gotta feed them farm boys. Bring 'em up right.
Well, the teachers expressed that they really appreciated that because that gives, alleviates the parents worrying about getting lunches for their kids when they do a field trip. So they know that they're gonna be fed at their field trip, so that kind of makes it a little bit easier.
We've been paying for that for 10 years, I bet.
Yep, yep, and Fillmore Cattlemen put on theirs too for that day.
We usually swap every other year.
So, but Katie's really busy. She's got a lot of things going on besides that, and then we talked about our budget for coming up here. They know the budget process starts here in August. And this was discussed last year, and they also wanted to bring it up again this year. They would like to change Jennifer's status from 3/4 time to full time. And they would like to come and talk about that at budget time and have a discussion with us. If that were the case, right now we fund an summer intern, which is about $2,300. So, we could eliminate that part and in order to use that money to go towards Jennifer making her full-time, so. I told them to put their numbers together and come at budget time and we can have a discussion about it. As a board, so. Just wanted you guys aware of that. That's it, I guess. I went to the District 9 meeting yesterday too, and my head was spinning by the time the meeting was over with all the.
Yes, some good questions for funding.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of stuff came down that just. You started listening to all those numbers and holy smokes.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go. You guys sound awful disappointed.
Yeah. All day. Okay,
Well, the best part was after the meeting, we went I went on that tour for
Is it?
Hormel Institute, and that was really interesting.
Free span?
No, we didn't get
No.
into free span, but it was really interesting. Got to see that scope that there's only a few of those in the world, and it's high powered scope. But it was interesting.
What's the scope do?
It can see through anything. Yeah, they said that it was in the moon, they could look at the dimple on your forehead.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
really
call it-
excellent.
You didn't even know I had it.
And they use it, that's the moon. Well, I was being nice, Bob. A dimple on your chin, maybe. But it was really interesting. Use that for research for diseases and stuff like that. It was good. Sure.
Quite the building there.
Yep.
Okay, Bob, did you hear that the city of La Crescent, did not, act on the side-by-side proposal in the city limits?
I heard it was still tabled was the last day.
Was it table? I heard denied. That's why I was asking if
I
you had
didn't
heard.
hear that, no.
But anyway, that was discussion. City of Crescent last week, but I missed that meeting. Somebody came to me and said it was denied, and I was, okay, that's their
So
choice.
then they're gonna follow state statute that allows
Let's
it.
go with a state statute. That's what I understood. Anyway, that's the only thing that I had in the past. In the future, I got, this afternoon, we're gonna meet with the TKDA folks as a final prep for next, no, it's Thursday afternoon, so not this, Thursday afternoon and prep for next week's, public hearing. That morning, Thursday morning, I have a workforce, meeting Rochester. And then next Monday, I have Winlac in Winona Monday morning and emergency communication Monday afternoon in Rochester. So that's what's coming up for me. Otherwise, I haven't had too much in the past since the last 2 weeks. Robert,
One thing I gotta expand on what Greg had mentioned with regard to the airport. I went out there with Bubba and some of the guys from the highway department went out and measured the height of the trees on that site that we sent to the engineers, because we gotta know which trees have a bearing and which trees don't. I know that information's been sent, but I have not heard what the information is. But the current proposal as far as the easement does not include trees in the northwest corner of that property. And whether or not those trees do or do not cause impediment as far as the airport flight path business and whatnot. I haven't heard Ryan call him, but he said he hadn't heard back, so I don't know what the deal is. And we're out there. You got a cool piece of equipment that you just pointed at the top of the tree and bam, it tells you how tall that tree is. So
Huh?
They,
triangulation.
by triangulation, but it bang, bang, bang. shoot the tree.
Did they do that yet? You know, all that was?
Yeah, they did. They had that from before,
Okay.
but it's all the trees that they were, including that little chestnut, the Chuck was worried about. Only this big around, so it could be, I think. Anyways, they got all the measurements, sent that in, so now we'll find out what FAA is gonna say as far as what trees have to go or don't have to go, all that's gonna go.
So you're gonna get participating funds to pay for that.
Well, if the FAA won't participate up front, but if we do if they know what trees have to be done and we do the studies, it's 2 years before we'd have to take the trees down, then they would participate.
So that's what.
So anticipate not doing any removals until we have participation funds and then do the removals.
Anything else? And now we're back to public comment. Any public comment? On the screen popping up and, okay, Carol, anything exciting in the treasury? Oh, okay. And entertain a motion.
One question for Carol, are we getting department budget information yet?
No, we don't until after June reports.
Pretty far along. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Yep. That's so.
Yeah, no discussion, all in favor, say yep.
Be